Alright, so picture this, Jim Carrey. The man of 1,000 faces, the rubber-limbed genius who gave us Ace Ventura, The Mask, and made us laugh until our sides ached. For decades he was the king of the box office, a whirlwind of manic energy that audiences absolutely adored. But then, something shifted. Carrey began to use his platform for something other than just making us giggle. He started painting, creating these incredibly detailed and often scathing caricatures of political figures, particularly those in the Trump administration. Suddenly, Jim Carrey, the beloved comedian, was also Jim Carrey, the outspoken political commentator. And it was in this charged atmosphere, with the nation already deeply divided and tensions running high, that Carrey dropped a tweet that didn't just make waves, it caused a veritable tsunami. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the actual tweet that sent shockwaves across the internet and had news anchors scrambling. On the 27th of May, 2018, Jim Carrey took to his Twitter account. He wasn't promoting a new film or sharing a wacky anecdote. Instead, he posted this: 1,500 innocent children ripped from their mother's arms at our border, lost in Trump's system. Boom. Simple, direct, and utterly devastating in its implication. The power of that tweet lay in its raw emotion and crucially in one specific, highly charged word: lost. Carrey wasn't just saying children were separated, which was bad enough. He was implying they had vanished, swallowed up by a callous and incompetent bureaucratic machine. This wasn't a nuanced policy critique, it was a gut punch, designed to provoke an immediate and strong reaction, and boy, did it succeed in that endeavor. The phrase "ripped from their mother's arms" added another layer of visceral horror, evoking a sense of brutality and forced separation that resonated deeply with people across the political spectrum. Combined with innocent children, it framed the issue in stark moral terms. Immediately the tweet went viral. Carrey, with his massive following, had effectively thrown a grenade into an already volatile debate, and the shrapnel, particularly that one word, lost, was about to fly in all directions, hitting headlines and political discussions with considerable force. To really understand the impact of Carrey's tweet, we need to zoom out a bit and look at what was actually happening at the U.S. southern border around that time. The Trump administration had implemented what it called a zero-tolerance policy towards illegal border crossings. It meant that any adult caught crossing the border illegally, even those seeking asylum, could be criminally prosecuted. And here's the kicker: when you criminally prosecute parents, you can't exactly keep their children with them in a federal jail. So, what happened? Families were separated. Parents were taken to detention centers to face charges, and their children, some of them incredibly young, were classified as unaccompanied alien children and placed into the custody of the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. The images and stories that began to emerge were heartbreaking. The policy officially ramped up in April 2018, just before Carrey's tweet, and by early June, official figures stated that over 2,000 children had been separated from their parents in just a 6-week period. The stated aim was to deter illegal immigration, but the human cost was becoming increasingly, and very publicly, apparent. The public was already hearing about these separations, and the outrage was palpable. Carrey's tweet landed right in the middle of this escalating situation, adding a specific, alarming number and that explosive word, lost. Now this is where things get a bit, shall we say, complicated. The claim that the Trump administration had lost 1,500 immigrant children needed a serious fact check. The reality was more nuanced than Carrey's tweet suggested. The figure came from a government official, but context was crucial. These were primarily unaccompanied minors, not children separated from parents. The Office of Refugee Resettlement places these children with sponsors. The lost part came from a follow-up procedure. HHS called households of unaccompanied minors to check on their welfare. They couldn't account for 1,475 children. This didn't necessarily mean the children were in danger or truly lost. Even though the lost narrative surrounding the 1,475 unaccompanied minors was a misrepresentation of their specific circumstances, it's absolutely crucial to remember that the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy was actively and systematically separating children from their parents at the border. This wasn't a misunderstanding, this was a documented fact, and it was causing immense trauma and widespread condemnation. Official figures released around that time confirmed the scale of these separations. For instance, between May 6 and May 19, 2018, a period of just 2 weeks, 658 children were separated from their parents as a direct result of the zero-tolerance policy. And that was just a snapshot. These weren't unaccompanied minors in the traditional sense. These were children who arrived with their parents, only to be forcibly taken from them. The process itself was brutal. The psychological impact on both parents and children was, by all accounts, devastating. Naturally, when you're accused of losing nearly 1,500 children, especially by someone as famous as Jim Carrey, you're probably going to want to say something about it. The Trump administration and its supporters were quick to respond to Carrey's tweet and the wider criticism surrounding the lost children narrative. Their main line of defense was, quite correctly in this specific instance, that the 1,475 children weren't lost by them in the way Carrey implied. They emphasized that these were unaccompanied minors whose sponsors hadn't responded to follow-up calls, a situation that, they pointed out, also occurred under previous administrations. President Trump himself waded into the debate, particularly addressing some of the imagery being used to criticize his administration's policies. There were photos circulating widely on social media showing children in what appeared to be steel cages. Trump clarified that these specific, highly emotive images actually dated back to 2014 during the Obama administration, and were being misrepresented by some activists to depict current conditions under his policies. This highlighted a common tactic in heated political debates: the use and sometimes misuse of powerful imagery to sway public opinion, often without full context. Jim Carrey's tweet, with its potent combination of celebrity endorsement and alarming claim, acted like a massive injection of fuel into an already blazing media fire. Social media, of course, went into overdrive. The 1,500 lost children narrative spread like wildfire, shared by countless users who were understandably horrified by the prospect. Hashtags trended, outrage multiplied, and the nuances of the situation, the difference between unaccompanied minors and separated children, the context of the HHS follow-up calls were often completely bulldozed in the stampede of digital indignation. Traditional media outlets also picked up the story, though with varying degrees of accuracy and context. Some news reports initially echoed the lost children claim more directly, while others were quicker to incorporate the fact checks and clarifications. Cable news channels, with their 24/7 cycle, dedicated significant airtime to the controversy. Pundits debated, politicians issued statements, and the story dominated headlines for days. The sheer star power of Jim Carrey ensured that his intervention received far more attention than if a less famous individual had made a similar, factually muddled claim. His celebrity amplified the message, for better or worse. The controversy highlighted the immense challenge of reporting accurately and responsibly on emotionally charged issues in a hyper-partisan environment. The Jim Carrey tweet saga really throws a spotlight on the whole phenomenon of celebrity activism, doesn't it? It's a tricky business, a real double-edged sword. On one hand, celebrities have enormous platforms. We're talking millions of followers, instant access to media attention, and the ability to make an issue trend worldwide with a single post. When someone like Jim Carrey or Leonardo DiCaprio talking about climate change, or Angelina Jolie discussing refugee crises, speaks up, people listen. They can bring crucial awareness to important causes, galvanize public opinion, and even pressure policymakers into action. That's a significant power, no doubt about it. However, there's a flip side, a rather perilous one. When celebrities wade into complex political or social issues, there's a risk they might oversimplify things, or worse, get the facts plain wrong, as happened with Carrey's lost children claim. Because their voices are so amplified, their mistakes can also be amplified, potentially spreading misinformation far and wide. This can muddy the waters, making it harder for the public to understand the real issues, and for constructive dialogue to take place. When the dust settled on Jim Carrey's tweet, what were we left with? Quite a lot, actually. It reminded us how easily misinformation can spread, especially when it taps into strong emotions. The idea of lost children was so horrifying that many accepted it without question. It underscored the importance of fact-checking for everyone. The incident highlighted the intense polarization of political discourse. Instead of understanding vulnerable children at the border, the debate fractured along partisan lines. Carrey's tweet became ammunition for one side and derision for the other. This made it difficult to discuss real problems like family separations and the welfare of unaccompanied minors. Everything became a political football. The power to reach millions comes with the responsibility to be accurate. The Carrey conundrum was a microcosm of broader challenges in our information ecosystem.